Sarah loved nothing more than wandering through the aisles of dusty old bookstores, searching for hidden treasures that had long been forgotten, and newer books she could lose herself in. She could spend hours searching through a store, stopping to pull out a book if something about the title or the cover piqued her interest. The age of the book didn't even matter. She fancied herself an explorer, searching through the darkness of a cave to find that one special treasure. It was on one of these excursions that she stumbled upon a strange book, almost completely hidden on a bottom shelf and covered with a thin layer of dust. She pulled the book from its hiding place and wiped some of the dust from its cover. The hardback cover was a bright blue with no external markings. Not even a title on the spine. Curious, she flipped it open to the title page. She read the title out loud, not too loud though, so as not to disturb other patrons. It was titled, You, Volume 1. The title immediately caught her attention, and she felt somehow drawn to the book, feeling an odd sense of connection with it. The book was a mystery, and she had to solve it. She eagerly flipped through the pages of the book, looking for chapter headers or anything that might give her a clue as to what the book was about. There was nothing but endless text, though. No chapter breaks, no illustrations, just one long string of text. She had noticed something odd as she had flipped through the book, though. It seemed as though the main character in the story was also named Sarah. An interesting coincidence, but not overly shocking given that it was a common name. Time to find out what this is all about, she thought, flipping back to the title page. After a few blank pages, the story finally began. But as she read the first few sentences, she almost dropped the book. It was about her. She flipped back to the front of the book, looking for any kind of details about a copyright date or a publisher. In small text at the bottom of the inside front cover, she found what she was looking for. The copyright date was 1989, her birth year. The publisher's name had been scratched through, though, and she couldn't make out anything except the letters A and O. She was a little spooked, to say the least, but couldn't look away. She had to read it. It just felt right. She walked to the end of the shelves of books and dropped into one of the softer chairs the store had offered for anyone wanting to take their time. She quickly turned back past the blank pages and began reading about her life, from birth up until her college years. There were details that even she had forgotten. Nicknames of old friends, how she and her roommate had decorated their dorm room, and even the name of some of her secret crushes that she never told anyone about. It all seemed to be happy memories, and she delighted in so many memories flooding back. That was until she reached the part of the book about her college boyfriend, James. Sarah had always thought that James had died in a tragic car accident shortly after they broke up, but the book told a different story. According to the book, James had faked his death and had been stalking Sarah for years. As she read on, the details became more and more disturbing. The plot shifted, and the story told of how James had been watching her every move, following her to work, to her favorite coffee shops, and even to her own home. He'd gotten very good at it over the years, his obsession still burning inside of him, wanting to break free. Somehow, the book was even able to know what he was thinking. He knew he had to bide his time. He had to work back up to the point where she would love him again. He had been leaving subtle clues, hoping to lead Sarah back to him, but was frustrated when she either didn't notice them or thought they were the work of one of the other men she was interested in. The more Sarah read, the larger the knot in her stomach grew. She glanced around quickly, feeling as if she was being watched. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone was following her, watching her every move. There didn't seem to be anyone else in the store, though. Just a small, older woman behind the register up front, quietly humming a tune Sarah couldn't quite make out. She glanced up at the clock on the wall and realized that she's been sitting there reading for almost an hour. She was a fast reader, and there were only 10 or so pages left before she reached the end. As the book came to a close, Sarah was horrified to read that it ended with her entering the same bookshop where she had found the book. She was suddenly filled with a sense of dread and terror, wondering if James was watching her even now. Despite her fear, Sarah couldn't bring herself to leave the book behind. She felt compelled to take it, to keep it close as a warning of what had happened and what could happen again. She slipped it into her bag so the old woman wouldn't see. Then she stood up and walked to the front of the store, casually picking up a book that looked interesting from the new releases table. She placed the book on the counter and took out her wallet to pay. The older woman smiled and took Sarah's debit card. She slid it through the machine, pausing a second to make sure the charge went through. Sarah smiled and took back the card and picked up the book. As she turned to walk out the door, the old woman cleared her throat. Sarah looked back over her shoulder, unsure if the woman was trying to get her attention. Quietly, the old woman said, "If you like that one, make sure to check out Volume 2. Sarah's blood ran cold. How did the woman know the little blue book was in her bag? She realized that if Volume 1 was a retelling of her past and ended with her coming here, Volume 2 had to be a warning of what was to come. Thank you," she stuttered. The old woman smiled and gave a little wave as Sarah turned and shoved the door hard, almost launching herself out into the street. Her mind was reeling, and she couldn't help but wonder if Volume 2 would reveal even more horrors and secrets that she was not yet ready to face.